QuickTime events are far too easily maligned nowadays. Their ubiquity in games has driven many players to become fatigued at the mechanic. The criticisms can vary. They're too trite, they're too simplistic, they're not particularly challenging. I disagree. I don't think there's such a thing as a particular mode of interaction that's too outdated or overused enough that we can malign the entire mechanic. Execution equals everything. Which brings us the source of QTEs, the Shenmue series, particularly Shenmue 2. Interactions resembling QTEs can be traced to Laserdisc games like Dragon's Lair, but the term finds its origin in Yu Suzuki, who wanted to create an experience somewhere between a game and a film. If you're not exploring a town or diving into Shenmue's combat system, you're probably engaging in a QTE sequence. They cover everything from bar fights to street chases to arcade minigames. Throughout Shenmue, the player comes to expect QTEs as a major way of interacting with the space. It becomes second nature. You see a button and you press it. The ease of action serves a broader purpose. In story sequences, the ability to execute highly choreographed fighting techniques speaks to the martial prowess of the protagonist, Ryo. A single button press can translate to an incredibly deft martial act. To this end, QTEs are not just a fancy button memorization game, the mechanic actually reflects something about the game's actor. Enter Shenmue 2, and what is, for me, one of the simplest but most effective mechanical subversions of any game. Coming from Shenmue, or even just being trained through earlier instances of QuickTime inputs, the player is accustomed to acting as soon as they see a prompt on screen. But this time is different. Ryo is training to learn the 4 Woo-Do, 4 kung fu principles that all martial artists should have. One of them is Dan. Be brave and stay calm to make the right decision. To learn this, he meets with a kung fu master who's also a barber.
Excuse me, are you Zenyu?
What do you want?
I want to ask you about the Woo-Do.
The Woo-Do? Are you familiar with the martial arts?
Yes.
Really? Well, have a seat. I'll trim your hair while I tell you. The Woo-Do are important to those who study the martial arts. Those without the Woo-Do often strayed from the path and were hated by others. Those people were often killed when they were off guard. For example, while they were having tea or sitting at the barber's. Listen, do not move, no matter what happens. So young, but you've got guts.
The razor's motion was sharp, but I did not feel any menace.
Be brave and stay calm to make the right decision. That is one of the Woo-Do. Dan.
This time, you're supposed to do nothing. It's simple, it's elegant. Through a meager subversion of behaviors and habits ingrained into the player and exhibited by Ryu in the series thus far, the temptation to press the button prompt is all but overpowering. Instead, we learn the principle of Dan by acting it out. All it takes is a single button prompt and an inversion of the understood form. One minor change in context, and the mechanic becomes something else entirely. Execution is, and will always be, everything. And Shenmue 2 not only proves the efficacy of the QTE, but manages to do so with a grace that few other titles could hope for. That's because there's nothing wrong with the mechanic itself. It's all about how someone uses it. A good carpenter doesn't blame his tools. QTEs can be many things. They can be an extension of the actor. They can be indicative of their mental state. They can test our reactions, and the various inputs can be used to challenge our behaviors and our gameplay biases. It might be a ubiquitous mechanic, but that's because, if used well, it can be a powerful one. A well-placed QTE says something. It's not just a physical trial or test of reflexes. When executed gracefully, a QTE can speak volumes, with or without the push of a single button.
How about a game of Lucky Hit? How about trying Lucky Hit? Do you want to try a game of Lucky Hit? How about trying Lucky Hit?